We are officially starting the webinar with Lama Tashi. Thank you everyone for joining us. We should have the video back on in just a few moments. It always seems to go from the presenter mode to the listener mode. So thank you for joining us this evening for a Dharma class with Tibetan Tantra Dharma class with Lama Tashi. It's being presented by myself, Davy Ward, and Jacques Drouin of Tibetan Tantra Sexual Education, and our Lama, Lama Tashi Dundrup of the Shankpa Kagyu lineage. All right, Lama Tashi, it's all you. Take it away.
Aloha from Hawaii, from the Kauai Dharma Healing Center, and I'm Lama Tashi, and director and teacher for this center, and I'm very honored to give this teaching along with any empowerment or practice information, and this is available to any interested party. And it's a very auspicious occasion because this program is extraordinary in its presentation, and it's the use of the technology of the modern day to make it available to any individuals. So this is very wonderful, and I'm honored to do this. Tonight, or this afternoon or tonight, we are talking about higher Tantra practice in the Tibetan tradition and how it is useful or practical in our spiritual development and in our everyday activities. Its transmission, how it is transmitted, because of its nature, it has a special age-old tradition which is necessary for the transmission. The reason for this is to be explained easily, to be understood, is it's for the training of the mind. And in the training of one's mind, we approach this subject on three levels. The physical level, which involves the body, and the spiritual level, which involves not only the body, but the speech. And on the emotional level, which is in our situation, an obstacle, but can be transformed into a benefit. So when we generate these practices and give teachings on them, we use what is called a lineage transmission. This simply means that this has been around for a long time and transmitted from teacher to disciple for hundreds, if not thousands of years in human condition. So the lineage that we use for this transmission are any lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, but specifically tonight, the Kagyu lineage and the Shankpa lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. The second aspect of the transmission is, how is the teacher important? The teacher in this tradition is usually called a Lama. And the Lama is trained in how to guide individuals on their development of what we call insight. Now, insight is a nature of mind that is not experienced in the worldly condition except through nature. But that is too, I want to use the word natural. What we do in our tradition is we connect to the nature through what is called the natural mind. Natural mind is not ordinary mind. Natural mind is actually a state of consciousness outside of the mind, or outside of the mind's field of involvement. But it is inherent in every human being. Actually, it's inherent in every sentient being, but only humans can connect to this aspect of pure consciousness, which we use the word awareness. Now, when we say awareness, we have two flavors or two aspects. The ordinary aspect of awareness is how we connect to the natural world, or the world around us, and to individuals in it. The second awareness is actually an awareness of using the outer awareness to connect to what is called non-judgmental awareness. And everything we do in our ordinary existence is judgmental. So when we say non-judgmental, that's the pure nature of our consciousness. Another way of explaining this is ordinary existence is conditional, based on the conditions of having a body with the name, sensual perceptions, thinking, emotional reaction, and karmic propensities or tendencies. But the other aspect of consciousness is unconditional. To better understand the unconditional state, I would explain it according to the word love. Love in the ordinary state of conditioned existence is extremely partial. By that I mean there's conditions and some idea of an exchange of energies. In the unconditional state, this doesn't apply. So then we have what we call unconditional love. Now, in the transmission of the teachings of how to use the ordinary conditional state to connect to the unconditional state of awareness, then we have many methods and techniques. The methods that we use are called Tantric, but those methods are based on a tradition called Sutra. The Sutra tradition is actually a path for ordinary people to evolve to the level of a mature human being through what we call the training of a bodhisattva, which involves 6 basic disciplines. And those 6 basic disciplines can be practiced by almost anybody. The 7th discipline is once you've perfected the first 6 benefits or disciplines through practice, then the 7th discipline arises, and it is called Tantric Yoga or Deity Yoga, or the path of skillful means. And in that level, that is applied to particular human beings who have certain abilities, inclinations, leisure time, and a support. Those are the 4 qualifications for the tantric level of practice. So when we do this transmission, one needs to know those that they have. And the first one is fulfilled tonight in this program, because you're tuned in. That shows you have the inclination. Then some of you are involved with practices with Jacques and Davy on what they call sexual tantra. That also shows that besides inclination, you have some ability. Then because of that, you need to have leisure time to do the practices that you've been explained to you and trained in. And then the support is the teachers and the whole system of what we call the Dharma, and other people doing the same thing you are, which is called the Sangha. So when we give this transmission, it's for your body, speech, and mind on the ordinary level to start the process of transforming the ordinary body, speech, and mind into extraordinary or very powerful body, speech, and mind. And that transmission or empowerment for these practices is necessary. The teacher who is giving the transmission has been trained in the two natures of mind, but more importantly, how to represent the teachings, the Dharma, and all of that, and how to recognize in the student their particular needs, abilities, aptitudes, and intelligence, so that the instruction is presented according to those basic aspects. Now, all of this sounds quite complicated, but the simplicity of it is, if you think of your consciousness as having two sides, everything we do in worldly existence in a human condition is on one side. But that one side actually is connected to the other side of the same consciousness, but with a completely different motivation and a completely different set of results. And the results, simply said, are required to, in this case, to have a teacher so that they work efficiently, but not only that, don't increase the problems that are on the ordinary side by connecting to the superior or other side of your consciousness. When we give this teaching, we give a transmission of the lineage transmission, and that is called an empowerment or a wand. But that is only the first step, Abby. That is only the first step. There are actually three parts to this. The first part is the empowerment itself. And that is applied from the teacher as a direct transmission of body, speech, and mind receiving energy. And this energy is necessary in the body so that the channels, winds, and what we call bindus, or energy points or chakras, are properly empowered in a healthy way. Then the second aspect that results from the empowerment is that the speech needs to and hearing need to be introduced to what is called the vibratory energy or sound that goes with the empowerment. And this part is called the loom, and it has to do with all of the instruction of what the empowerment means on various levels, how it works, and the vibratory sounds of any mantra or creation symbols based on the Sanskrit language that are transmitted. Then the third aspect that goes along with the empowerment and the second part that we just described, which is called the loom, is the third part is called the tree. Tree in Sanskrit means how to do it. How to do the practice so that it's effective without creating more problems or more constrictions in our ordinary relationship to everything. And those three, the empowerment, which is called the wang, the speech empowerment, which is called the womb, and the mind empowerment of training, which is called the tree, are all work together. And the results are quickly accomplished. And the reason for that is because this method to connect ordinary mind to pure consciousness is direct. In other words, it can be accomplished in one lifetime, where other methods take many lifetimes. Not to say that they don't work, but the process is not as direct. Then finally, when we relate this to the prana, or the chant we call pranic channels, prana is actually the same as chi in the Taoist tradition. It simply means energy or energies. The channels are how the energies flow through not only the physical body, but the psychic body created in Tantric practice, what we call Vajrayana Buddhism. And then these all originate through vibratory sound and visualizations associated with chakras, or energy centers within the body. But in our tradition, we're very specific where those energy bodies are to be visualized and acknowledged, and that is in the center of the body in a channel of light, starting from the soft spot at the top of the head, not directly from the crown, but more towards the back. And the channel runs down through the center of the body to the perineum, which is located between the sex and sexual genital area and the anus. Now that channel we locate is called the life force channel. And what we are doing in these practices is connecting to the life force of the universe as not being separate from the life force in the body. And then with these specific methods, using that energy of the primordial life force to increase the vitality or good health of the individual practitioner. And so, in a word, this is all very healthy. And actually, Buddhism is not a religion. Buddhism is a health program. And because it's been established by the Buddha Shakyamuni on this planet for the last 26 years, it has evolved through many different cultures on the planet, and now it's in our culture.
2,600.
That 2,600 years, and now it is today in our culture. So practically speaking, we are, Buddhism is adapting to our culture just the way it is. And a perfect example of this is this transmission, which is, as I said before, very wonderful and extraordinary. Any questions?
Tashi, we have a question. It may not be the time to answer it, but I'm going to ask it because it came in from a student a couple days ago. And it's regarding the green Tara practice that you gave an empowerment for about a month ago. The student is saying that after she completes the green Tara practice, she feels really exhausted and she has to lay down. Then she says that she feels like she's paralyzed and she can't move. And she's dreaming, but she doesn't really sleep and can't remember anything in the dream. And that sometimes she has really, really intense body pain after doing the green Tara practice. So she's wondering what the heck's going on.
Well, first of all, she's probably forcing the practice. In other words, she's using extreme effort to say the mantras, do the visualization, and actually to create time in her life schedule and spending too much time doing the practice, which requires a lot of visualization, and that's done in the head, which can actually be counterproductive. When we do these practices, we end the practice session in what we call a state of voidness. This is called the completion stage of practice, and it's absolutely necessary in Tibetan Buddhism, doing deity yogas of any kind, Tara being one of the most important practices, that at the end of the practice, you dissolve everything in your mind that you've been thinking of, visualizing, all the sounds, everything, into your central figure as the symbol of Tara, then disappear that into the mantra sound of the deity's mantra, then disappear the mantra sounds into the seed soul of the deity, which is the green tong. And then that in a sphere of light, you contract to a point of light into what we call a state of clear light or voidness, which is simply the luminosity of space. And you relax in that situation effortlessly, simply keeping your focus to the present. In other words, not let the mind go past or future, but at the same time, don't block what arises. Just relax and let the simplicity of that aspect of the practice take hold in your heart, because you want to get out of your head with these practices and get into your heart. Because the basis of all this is simply loving kindness. We say unconditional love, extended to everybody and everything, which includes yourself, because there's no separation. And at the same time, acquire experience or increase our capacity to the pure consciousness, which is not the Tara practice at all. The Tara practice is simply the teaching symbol of the pure consciousness, and is actually designed to reconstruct the mind. But that's still on this side, where when you move to the unconditional at the end of the practice, to how I just explained it, that takes you for a moment or more to the other side of the drama field, or outside the drama field. And that's the real benefit of all these practices. That's where we're going with it.
Okay, so you're suggesting that she relax more with her practice, that perhaps she's straining mentally too hard and it's exhausting her, so she should relax more and focus on feeling the practice, as opposed to forcing her mind.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Lama Tashi.
But do the end of the second stage of the practice more, maybe up to 5 minutes. Relax with no meditation, no effort, just staying present and watching. That's called mindfulness, developing alertness. That's the ultimate of the practice.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Now, tonight, are we giving an empowerment for a specific practice?
If you would like to have an empowerment for a specific practice, that would be lovely. Jacques came up with the topics for the evening, and he wanted discussion about how empowerments set up the channels in the body for the practice. So maybe you could explain a little bit more about that, and if you're inclined to do an empowerment, that would be lovely.
There are two ways to receive the empowerment, or to what we say, open up the body in a psychic way to receive more energy and become healthier. The first way is an actual meditation practice called the three lights. And with that, we use the breath. Then with the breathing technique, we evolved to simply watching the breath to what we call a three-stage breath practice, three-part breath practice. The first part is the inhale. The second part is taking a pause in the breathing so that the absorption breath is identified as spreading through the body. The third is the exhale. Then we assign 3 lights to those 3 breathing parts. And the 3 lights are actually a code, which is what we use in the transmission of the lineage empowerment for any individual to do these practices. Now, the empowerment for a practice is always the same, but Lamas have their own specialty on how they do it. And some are very elaborate and take a lot of time, and we say a lot of ritual. But simply said, these 3 are based on the body, speech, and mind receiving the empowerment. And then once the transmission is completed, then a 4th empowerment called the empowerment of union is given, and that is to bring the body, speech, and mind energies into the same place. And that aspect of the practice called union is very similar to what we use in sexual tantra when we are actually in sexual union. So you can think of that as creating a great effect, similar, if you would like, to the orgasmic effect experienced by the women in the Tantric tradition of using sexual energy. But these 3 empowerments are presented as 3 spheres of light with 3 sounds, and the 3 color codes associated with the breath are then transformed because the breath with the consciousness delivers more prana or energy to the body. Then, bringing them all into the same place, we do the location of what that place is, where it is in the body, starts in the heart chakra. And we use this energy center because not only is it central, but it greatly influences the other energy centers of channels, winds, and bindus throughout the body. But more importantly, it's the source of moving from the conditional state to the unconditional. And the basis is simply unconditional love and altruistic compassion, which means a concern for every sentient being in the universe's well-being, all the animals, humans, and spirits. Now, those 2 conditions are Buddhism. So if you say you're a Buddhist, your basis of Buddhism is unconditional love, expressed as loving kindness, and altruistic compassion for all beings in the universe, expressed as concern for their well-being on all levels: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And in that way, we bring all beings to maturity, which is where we use the word Buddhahood. But it's not something supernatural or supreme. It's simply bringing ourselves to what the universe has designed us for, is to realize that our natural mind and the universe's natural state are inseparable. And call it whatever you like, I just call it being mature. And that's the purpose for our human condition.
I have a question, Lama Tashi. I have a question. Yes. So why is it that only a Lama can give an empowerment?
The Lama is trained for 40 months in the various aspects of the 2 states of consciousness. And the training is totally based on those 2 being developed together. So what it does, this 40-month retreat and all of the techniques, practice, and methods used in the retreat are transmitted from what was taught starting in the 7th century in Tibet by Padmasambhava and his consort Geshe Sogyal, or in the 10th century, which originated from two women in India, whose names were Neguma and Sukhasiddhi. This transmission all came from the Buddha 2,600 years ago, Shakyamuni in India, but then moved into many different areas of Tibet. But that transmission has not changed from teacher to disciple down to the present day, and the human condition hasn't changed. We still have humans that need to mature. In fact, we have 7 billion humans today, so it's much more useful, much more in need. But specifically, this transmission through a Lama is because of that training, and because that Lama has teacher or teachers that continually cause the two levels of consciousness to be active in that man or woman. So men and women Lamas have that transmission. And because it's connecting to the pure state of consciousness outside of the judgmental mind, it is extremely unique in the human condition. And because it's unique, it's extraordinary. And the transmission itself and the people that receive the transmission are extraordinary. And it's very limited to, in numbers, to just a few humans to receive this transmission. So it's very special. We say auspicious, which is my name, Tashi, means auspicious, just to let you know.
So then, Lama Tashi, when it comes to doing Dharma practice, what is the benefit of having an empowerment versus doing the practice without an empowerment?
Without the empowerment and guidance of a Lama, you will not access your pure nature of consciousness in a way that would be a benefit to others. And in fact, you would access this state of pure awareness and identify it with who you are, and that's very counterproductive. That is what the tradition called Hinduism is all about. And basically, that's the difference between Hinduism and Buddhism. The practices are very similar, but the nature or motivation and result of the practice is very different. We actually vow never to go to heaven or any other spiritual state of existence. And we do that because of the two basic, as I said before, qualities of loving kindness and compassion. We never leave the human condition, whether we're in a body or not. And that's kind of like, if you want a symbol, it's kind of like a mother's relationship to her child. She relates both conditionally and unconditionally, and she doesn't go away. Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
This is very, very wonderful for Western people, because our culture is based totally on the acquisition of power, wealth, fame, pleasure, and we're very good at that. We're very powerful, and because of that, we are using a great volume of the energy of the planet. But in the process, we are, I'd like to say, messing up our environment, which is the natural state. And this is dangerous. So you have to consider the environment as a living being, just like you would consider all the beings on the planet, your family, living beings. But more importantly, this environmental aspect is earth, water, fire, air, and space, which are primordially existing. universally existing, not only in our body, but everywhere in the universe. And to not have loving kindness and concern for this natural world around us is dangerous, to say the least. And it's our support system, which is the fourth requirement in Tantric practice. Besides having the inclination, ability, and leisure time, you must have support. And it's especially useful in this health program called Tibetan Buddhism. Any more questions?
Does anybody have any questions at this juncture? You can type them in to the chat box. And if a question comes up for you anytime during the presentation, please feel free to type it into the chat box or hold on to it, and we will have another question and answer session towards the end. All right, that appears to be all, Lama Tashi.
Okay, I'm going to sum this up, that this power of this Tantra transmission, according to Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is the only way available on the planet today to receive a direct connection to your pure consciousness that you can find not only valuable, but practical in application to your everyday affairs, to your body, whatever kind of living situation you have. And it can be applied on all levels. On the spiritual, we call the Hinayana path of monks or nuns, the Tantric path of the householder, or the highest Tantric path of yogis and yoginis in retreat situation. It can be practiced in union or by oneself. And this application is very healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And the most important of those four is the emotional. Because through the Tantric practice, you can transform the emotional dysfunctions into their antidotes. These emotions carry their own antidotes. And the Lama points this out with the transmission of whatever Tantric yoga practice you do. The Lama can't change your emotional tendencies, only you can. But with these methods, they are transformed into your pure nature of consciousness. In other words, you move with your emotional energy from the mind-bound condition we call egocentric to the pure nature of consciousness, which is all-pervasive. And in that way, you eliminate the first division between these two sides, the ordinary and the extraordinary, the conditional and the unconditional. And that is a barrier called the idea of separation. So we need to remove the inside, outside, subject, object, and actions involving subject, object are all about the idea of separation. And since there is no such thing as separation on any level, that experience and profound realization is called the state of unity. And it is the perfect antidote for any form of aversion. For instance, anger, hatred, rage, and so forth. Fear, anxiety, depression. This taking away the idea of separation is the basis of unconditional love and altruistic compassion applied with the mind connecting these two states of consciousness, the mind field and pure consciousness, and attaining some stability, some capacity to understand it all. And the understanding and the experience produce the profound realization of who and what you really are, and opens you up to limitless possibilities.
So would you say that essentially Tantra is about, it's a healing?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. But only available to a few humans. Okay?
Why is that? Could you reiterate that again for us? Why is Tantra only able to be practiced by a small number of people on the planet?
Well, I can explain it, but most religions on the planet don't believe it, what I'm going to explain, including some forms of Buddhism. But the reason of its limited application is simply the word karma. People don't know or believe that they've been around for limitless lifetimes in the past. And in those limitless lifetimes, a few of the human beings present on the planet today have done these practices before and acquired profound experience realization, which is now arising in this lifetime. But the number of spiritual, I would like to say, inclined individuals that have now taken birth in this age are very, very few. For instance, I'm on an island of 60,000 people. My notice that I am here is available to all these people. But if I have a weekly class, which I have Monday and Thursday night, I might have 6 people, or maybe 10. But that's a very small number to compare to the number of people that live on this island. So that is karma. They just don't have the inclination. But more importantly, they haven't practiced in past lives to acquire that inclination. And then they have to have the ability. Well, that limits a lot of people right there. Then they need to have the leisure time. Well, you know, in the Western world, leisure time is at a premium. Everything that you see on the web is about how to acquire leisure time with all kinds of apps and things so that you can have more leisure time. But even then, you still need support. And the support has to come from the natural world and from the humans around you. So that might explain why very, very few people have the good fortune to connect to tantric practice on any level, ordinary or extraordinary.
So would you say for those people that are inclined, like you believe that they've practiced they've done these practices in previous lifetimes, so whoever shows up in front of you wanting the teachings, it's because they've done it before?
That's what my teacher, Kala Rinpoche, told me. I said, well, how do I know these people are inclined or have the ability? He said, don't worry about it. They wouldn't be in front of you if they hadn't done it before. It wouldn't be in their hard drive. And all of these practices are simply software going into our hard drive to bring it all up again on our present mode of being. And that's very auspicious. That's very wonderful. The first thought every day when I get up, besides connecting to my teacher, my root Lama, who is expressing herself outside and inside, is that I have a very profound situation. I have an extremely extraordinary, wonderful state of human being. Not that I've reached the top of the food chain, which I feel I have, but that I'm exposing my ordinary situation, my ordinary mind, to this extraordinary aspect of my consciousness as a regular diet. And I'm training since 1977 in this tradition, receiving all of this backup from all of these teachers, lamas, and with the support of the Sangha and all of the new Dharma transmissions which are being presented, so that I'm in good health. I have this extraordinary situation. That's the first thought, and I must use it to benefit others. And that I have karma. Because of karma, I need to keep my karma pure, profound, but positive, beneficial. Then number 3, I'm terminal. My next breath's my last breath. Today's my last day. Or tonight's my last night. In this body. Well, that's not the end of time. It's a good thing. I've really used this body to the max for 77 years. So now it's time to recycle. And then finally, the conditioned existence itself is unfavorable. It's unfavorable because it's not effectively removing all the pain and suffering for everybody. So what is to be generated is a flexible mind, so you can move through this kind of chaotic, constantly changing situation that the universe presents us and our own emotional tendencies create, and evolve so that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual sufferings disappear. Well, that's what the idea of heaven's all about. But we don't want to do this by inflating the ego even more. We don't want to stay in the ordinary cyclic existence drama state. Why? Because it's painful. We're not going to escape that. We're simply going to use these methods to transform that situation in a way that's beneficial for everybody and our environment, never forgetting the environment. That's it. That's it. That's the basis of all the Buddha's teachings, all the sutra, all the tantra, and all the teachings on pure consciousness, nature of mind. That's it. Wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You say in Tibetan, in Hawaiian, mahalo. Thank you for this opportunity. Now we can, because it's not an I thing, give the transmission of the Dita Yoga so that they can see how the transmission is given. In the process, I can explain it by 3 sounds in Sanskrit, which the Sanskrit language is based not only on transmitting or communicating advice, it is also based on the resonance factor of everything that we sound with the human speech and think of in the mind. So when we generate the transmission, we base it on 3 sounds with 3 color codes. The sound Om, which is the basis of spiritual clarity, is transmitted for the body. And this energy transmission is for an effective visualization of being that deity in an extraordinary way called the path of the Bodhisattva. And there are 1,000 of these deities in Tibetan Buddhism, so we have a great store to pick from. You don't need everything in the store, but 1 or 2 is very helpful. The second sound is Ah, basis of all the languages, monosyllabic and so forth. But this vibratory sound is the nature of the energy within the body that accomplishes good health and comes out through the speech in a powerful way. And that's the basis of prana. And then the hum is the transmission of the wisdom state, not available in the mind, but from outside of the mind, or as I said before, on the other side. And the hum is to generate a 2-way psychic exchange of that energy flooding into the mind field energy, which we associate with the heart chakra. So these 3, Om, Ah, Hum, are transmitted as the basis of any of the 1,000 deities of Tibetan Buddhism. There are two more sounds, but this code of these three has to be acquired before the other two are practical. I can say what they are. They're Trom and Hri. But when we give the empowerment, the first empowerment is with this vibratory sound, Om. The second empowerment for the speech is from the Ah. And the third empowerment is from the Hum. The deity itself is a representation of both the pure and ordinary consciousness mind in what we call a recycling stage, a transformation stage. And that's what we practice. When we practice, we bring all three of these into the union in the heart chakra. That's called the empowerment of union. And that aids the practitioner so that they can locate all the effects as the heart being the source. And this is very effective because it gets you out of your head, not being so top down. So I'm going to give the empowerment based on these three, and without a lot of ritual. This practice will be for the Tar, which is called an outer tantric transmission of the phenomenal world, as she is depicted with the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. So sit with your back straight, eyes open, mouth closed, hands in a comfortable position, head slightly tilted forward. And cause yourself to become into a peaceful or state of calm abiding by simply focusing on your breath. Prana Yoga. To start the transmission, the Lama in front is a representation of all the Lamas of Tibetan Buddhism and all the symbols used in Tantric practice and all the sounds of energy. And the Lama is seen in front of you as Tara, but in a light form, holographic form. Lama, Tara, or deity inseparable. Then to bring the lineage transmission through the prism of this root Lama in front, you see light from the Lama's head coming into your head. This white light, and this starts the transmission for the body. As this transmission takes place, it actually gives the permission and support for doing these tantric practices, starting with this one of Tara. As the light energy is absorbed into you, chant Om. Know that the transmission has been received, and this is called the body empowerment, or to receive the Nirmanakaya transmission. Kaya means vehicle, Nirmana means earth teacher. Number 2, the next empowerment is from the Lama as Tara in front of you. From the Lama's throat to your throat, red light emanates. This is the lineage empowerment of all the body and speech of all Buddhas, Lamas, and deities of the 3 times, past, present, and future, into you. As this transmission takes place, chant Ah. And this completes the second empowerment of the Tantric tradition, which is called the speech empowerment, or the Sambhogakaya, the teaching symbol of the mantra and visualization of this deity Tara. This acts as a permission to use these sounds in practice and support for the effect as beneficial to all beings. The third empowerment is the heart-to-heart transmission called the wisdom empowerment. And this is visualized as blue light emanating from the heart of Tara into your heart. As this lineage transmission takes place, you chant the sound Hum. It's H-U-M or H-U-N-G, either way. Hum. And this is the wisdom empowerment to transform the mind with the energy of pure awareness available to all beings in the forms of loving kindness and compassion. This is called the Dharmakaya empowerment, the all-pervasive vehicle of pure consciousness itself. The fourth empowerment is acquired by simply having these three lights shining simultaneously into you, key them all into your heart. And the way to do that is to think that the white light received in your head now moves down the central channel of your life force and merges with the red light in your throat. These two spheres of energy moving down the central channel to the heart chakra merge with the blue Hum sphere. Then the Hum contracts to a point of light and merges with the luminosity of space and what we call a state of relaxed awareness. And we chant the creation symbol of the deity Tara, which is used in practice. And that sound is Tam, T-A-M. Chant Tam. With that, the Tara, as Lama in front, merges into you. This is the empowerment called the Spahavikakaya empowerment, or the empowerment of union, which is the profound realization that there is no such thing as separation. Everything is interdependent, in union, outside, inside, same. And this completes the lineage transmission of this deity yoga, Vajrayana practice of the Tara. And we start with the practice using the color green, which associates with the energy of the air as prana. Each of the Tara is represented in a color code, would also be a representation of the element of that color. For instance, the gold Tara is the color yellow or gold as the earth element. Blue Tara, the water element. Red Tara, the radiation or fire element. And white Tara, the space element. Even though we are representing these individually, they are totally inseparable. You cannot have one element without the other. 4. Now, the next two aspects that go with empowerment, as I said before, is the loom and the tree. The loom is the sound, and that is given on an individual basis in applying to the Lama for how to do the practice, say the mantras, and do the visualizations. But I'll give you part of the loom now, that the seed syllable is the creation sound of Tara and her mandala, which fills space. And the mantra is Om Tara Tu Tare Ture Soha. 10 syllables. Om Tara Tu Tare Ture Soha. Soha is Tibetan for Svaha in Sanskrit, Indian. This completes this transmission. Any questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions, Lama Tashi. Could you share a little bit about the central channel, what it is and why it's important?
Yeah. In all the traditions of Tantric yoga involving sexuality, which I personally have used in practice some of these, with and without consort, they all use the central channel, but depicted it in different ways with different vibratory sounds. But in Tibetan Buddhism, since we're a health program, we want to start to deal with the emotional dysfunctions directly as they create disease in the body. We say blockages, energy blockages. Now, there are many modalities for clearing these, but we start right off by connecting to the life force of the universe as already existing within our body, otherwise we wouldn't be alive. On that basis, we visualize the life force as a channel. It's called the Uma, which we visualize to originate 8 finger widths back from the hairline at the soft spot at the back of your head, towards the back of the head. And that channel, like a tube or a straw, however you want to visualize it, runs straight through the body to the bottom of the torso, the perineum. And that channel is called the life force channel. And there are other channels within the body that parallel. In our practices, those are cleared by drawing their energy into the central channel as useful instead of obstructive. They are associated with the emotions. The central channel is emotion of ignorance, which is associated with the idea of separation. Any idea of separation whatsoever, subject-object fixation, is ignorant. Any idea that everything in the universe is anything other than light is, we say, illusory, is called stupid. And then the central channel, since it's the life force of the universe connecting to our own life force, starts to spread this energy and draw the 2 other channels, the aversion and attachment, which originate from the idea of separation, into the central channel, and in this way starts the purification process that eliminates these blockages that we've emotionally put into our body through our dysfunctional thinking. And the dysfunctional thinking is doing that because every thought carries an emotional attachment. You can't, in the normal human condition, the ordinary condition, think without emotionally attaching to what you think, which is counterproductive. So those thoughts are harming the body. Now, a lot of them originated because the body dictated to the mind what it thought it needed, or what it says it needs. And then the mind reacts on that, and then you have a dysfunction. Others are from outside stimulation or connection. Others are from thinking about past or future events, which is totally counterproductive. But all of it is the emotional involvement with all that that creates the dis-ease, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual obstructions. So right away we start to clear with the central channel being where we're going to put these chakra energy sounds and visualize colors and channel those energies through thousands of psychic light channels through the body that exist. They were emotional. Now we're transforming into the antidotes of those emotional unstable factors through the deity yoga practices, or through using sexual union practices, or through using dreams. Many different ways, okay? But the idea is you start by an absolutely clear channel of energy that is the pure energy of the universe itself, as the mother principle of the 5 elements being in you, in your body. And at the moment you leave the body, that's the channel you exit the body from, towards the sky, towards the mother space. So that's its usefulness. And it works. Have no doubts. You know, removing doubts about these practices evolves with the practice.
Do you mean by that the more you do the practice, the less you doubt the result or the effects of it?
Yes, because you'll be seeing the results constantly improving.
Yes.
No matter what your situation, outside, inside, getting better. Less drama in your relationships. Less accidents, less disease, less ideas of harming others and your environment. Being more kind and considerate. This all starts to improve right away with these practices. But it all starts with that central channel in Tantric practice.
So another question is, you know, we talk about weaving light and sound with form. Why is that? Why do we have to visualize light, and why do we make sounds? What the heck does that do? Why does that make life better?
Well, you know, if you have nice sounds, you don't like it. And if you have, you like it. If you have harmful sounds, you don't like it. If things are blinding or not appearing as nice, you don't like it. And if it's beautiful, you like it. So these two central perceptions, which are actually the objects, the sense organs themselves, and how they create pictures on the brain, in the brain, we call the mind, is Buddha. The word Buddha, Bu means light. Another word is Bodhi. But Buddha, Da is sound, Bu is light. So the nature of your pure consciousness is vibrating or communicating to your constricted mind, this emotional drama field that we've bound ourselves in, through these vibratory sounds. And in Tantric practice, we actually create them to energize our visual capacity and the body itself. And that is what we call mantra, which is also 2 words. But what mantra means the use of vibratory sound connecting to light or color codes this is the software of all Tibetan Buddhism going into your hard drive of the mind. Then what comes up on your meaty little brain, the screen, is the result. And then what projects outward is the effect. You can think of this like a mirror. When you have a mirror, if you're not looking at it, it's empty. The empty mirror is your pure consciousness. But when you look in it, you think the image in the mirror is who you are, when actually the image in the mirror is the real energy of the mirror, which is its reflective nature, and you are simply an illusion. But we don't see it that way. We change that basic perception to something solid, fixed, and permanent, which nothing in the universe is permanent. So I'm explaining this mantra, sound and light, is very, very powerful, because if you make the sound with your speech, not just think the sound, you're affecting your immediate environment and all of the beings in that environment, for instance, animals, spirits, and humans. And it's healthy. Actually, they like that. And you can see the results in the beings around you, whether or not you use these practices. If you just visualize them, how powerful that is. But if you visualize and sound them, even more powerful. That's how this transmission just worked, whether you know it or not. You can never get Om Ah Hum out of your hard drive. It's there. And it's going to be there for a long time. And the results are hard. Okay, so use, not use. Your future is already starting to look really good.
Thank you, Lama Tashi. We have one more question, and the student, it's one of does the full 5-element meditation practices, and she's asking, is it enough to just practice the elemental meditations and color breathing, or should she do the deity yoga practices? She wants to know, if she only did the elements, would she be limiting herself? Is there a special advantage to doing the deity yoga?
Kala Rinpoche says if you can do the elements, you're on the path to good health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But if you have the inclination, capacity, and now you've received the transmission, it would be to everybody's benefit if you did Tara. The 5 elements is for you. The Tara practice is for everybody else. That's the difference.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lama Tashi. So the 5-element practice is for us. The deity yoga is for benefiting others.
Correct.
So perhaps she should do both.
I recommend doing both. I do. And I put them in my chakras. Looks like this. This side, 5 elements. This side, 5 states of awareness, or Buddhas, Buddha natures, or pure conscience. Merge them with sound and mantra in practice. Use the Om Ah Hum as the basis. Take refuge as the start of your practice. At the end of the refuge, at the end of the practice period, dedicate the merit to everybody. If you do that, then these 5 sounds, Om Ah Hum Tra Hri, Ram Lam Bam Yam Mam, are all in the central channel as spheres of psychic energy blasting through your body, radiating out to all the 6 realms of being. The accomplishment is simply, like the medicine Buddha, being Tara. The all-pervasive nature of the universe is expressed in these tantric practices. And you can do them by yourself or in union, or you can visualize individual or in union in practice. If you do the in union practice, you don't have to have an actual consort. You can visualize the Tara in union with the deity of that color code, that state of awareness. Very powerful, lots of options. And it doesn't end, you know. You leave the body, you got something to do in the bardo of becoming. Don't fool around. You don't have to go to heaven. Bliss, clarity, and voidness is your qualities of your true nature. And these are developed with these teaching symbols and practices. And they're available like this.
Thank you. Thank you, Lama Tashi.
My pleasure. Shall we end with dedication?
Let's do.
Right hand is your method, left hand is your motivation. These two come together in devotion for our environment and everybody in it. This universe is our home, everybody, our family. This goes to that, to them. Ewa di nirdu da, chagya champo drugyerne, jowa chinking malupa, de sala goparsho, sanjay kusum nimpai jim la dong, choni megur nimpai jim la dong, gendu miche nimpai jim la ki, chitar gomwa mon dru par sho. By this virtue, having realized pure consciousness, may I bring every single sentient being in the entire universe to that state of awareness. By the blessing of the three kayas of a Buddha being accomplished, by the unchanging truth of the Dharma being everywhere available, and by the wishes of the Sangha unobstructed, may this and all dedication prayers be fulfilled. May all the Lamas have long life, good health, happiness, and prosperity. May all their wishes be fulfilled. On this planet, may all beings be happy, be free of suffering, established in bliss, and become emotionally stable, and have fun in the process. Yuchi Che, mahalo, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So a few notes before we end. If you have questions for Lama Tashi, you can contact him directly at kawaiidharma.org. Also, we would very much appreciate if you are so inclined and you feel moved to giving a donation to Lama Tashi and the Kauai Dharma Center in honor and gratitude for these amazing instructions that he's sharing with us. Also, we have a Facebook group which is called Tibetan Tantra Dharma class, which is where we are going to be posting the replays of this video, as well as if you have questions for Lama Tashi, you can post them there, and Lama Tashi will either answer them in the group or we will forward them to Lama Tashi. As far as the Green Tara practice, I have a recording of myself doing the Green Tara practice. It's an audio recording and walking you through it. I will post that in the group as well so that you can access it and make use of the empowerment that everyone just received. And our intention is to do these once a month, every month. So stay tuned. I encourage you to join the group, join the mailing list, and continue learning with Lama Tashi Dandra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama Tashi. Good night, everybody. We're going to stop recording now. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Lama Tashi.